Well, check out that nice little airplane there. Welcome to Boston Logan, well, simulated Boston Logan Airport. And there is one of those iFly 737 MAXs sitting at the gate. Looks like it's all ready to go, and I think it's all should be a fairly nice flight. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Dave. I do the Spy Flight live streams here on YouTube, over on Twitch, and today this is another one of those favorite airplane flights that I do. I've got a couple of favorites within Microsoft Flight Simulator, and this is one of them. It is a really nicely done airplane. It was actually really nicely done before the latest big update, but now that we got that really good EFB, the electronic flight bag, the iPad, I gotta tell you, this airplane is even more fun. So let's head on out to Simulated Gate Bravo 30, where a real-world United 737 MAX is going to be doing a flight at about this time down to Washington Dulles Airport. Got payware airports for both of those. We're flying with real-time, real-world weather, and here's what we're going to do: Boston to Dulles with, as I said, real-time, real weather. Now, it's been kind of a thing going on. Sometimes when you're setting up your arrival into an airport, there are missing RNAV arrival waypoints in the star, between the star and the ILS or the RNAV approach. So there's a fix for this right now. What you do is, instead of entering in the approach or the ILS first on the flight management computer, you're supposed to enter the star first. Okay, so if you do that, and I've done a couple of tests on flights where I did have missing waypoints, and guess what? It seems to have worked. We'll also look at some of the chase plane views that I'm using for the airplane, and also, if you cared, that music is favorite on the Spy Flight. It's The World by Oi, and you can find that over on Epidemic Tracks, which has been really, really nice for those of us that produce content online, because all of their stuff is trouble-free. All right. With all of that, let's go ahead and get the airplane ready to go. As you saw from the outside of the airplane, we're at the gate. This is basically the load up for the plane. I've done absolutely nothing, so it is a complete cold and dark flight. Fact is, even the jetway isn't over there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is pop in and go to the EFB, the flight management computer, and oh my gosh, come on. The pilots before, look at all those fingerprints. Yeah, I guess fingerprints on the EFBs are a problem. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is go over to the ground services tab. And the first thing that I would like is I would like a jetway, and let's get a ground power card. Gotta get one of those. And outside we go, and you can see we got a nice little jetway coming out to the airplane. This Boston Logan's actually a really nice airport. You can see as the jetway approached the airplane, it did open the 1L door there for us. So that door is open, so we don't have to worry about doors. But if you'd like a little more of immersion, go on over to the doors tab, and you can open both forward cargo and aft cargo doors. You can also see that the doors are disarmed. That means that the slides will not go bursting out if you open the door. That's if you're a passenger and don't know, when the flight attendants on departure and arrival say arm doors for departure, disarm doors for arrival. That's what it is. It's the slides there. And it's actually pretty well modeled in the airplane. If you will allow me a couple of rabbit holes here, come on back into the cabin. And if you take a look, so there is the door over there. So that one's over there. If we look over on this side, you can see down here, that's actually the slide. That's the emergency evacuation slide. And if you look really close and go down here, you can see there's this bar. You put this little bar into these little slots down here. That's called arming the door. So now if you were to open that door, the emergency evacuation slide would deploy. So that's why, they talk about arming and disarming before a flight. Now you see this little red tab here. If you click it and put that over that, what that tells you is, guess what? The slides are now armed, and you see the bar is actually down here, and it's in the position. So then we can come back up there and disarm it, or you can do that from over here in the doors. You don't have to go back in there. So it says armed. I'm going to click it, and now it's disarmed. So that's a little rabbit hole for you on this airplane. Okay, next thing that I do, and I'm really trying to start using all of the manual things, the things that the real pilots would do, as opposed to the things that sim pilots would do. And we really have a lot of depth on the airplane. We're going to start off by going into our Navigraph charts here, and I'm going to go and import the SimBrief flight plan. I am not going to go and send the data to the aircraft or the flight plan to the flight management computer. It's a short flight. We can do that ourselves. But all of our information is here, including a very nice operational flight plan. And by the way, if you would like, you see that my charts are in dark mode here. You can do dark mode. You see the little moon in the upper right-hand corner. You click the little moon up there and it'll become sunshine, and that's daylight mode. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older. I just find, the dark mode charts are so much easier on your eyes, even though it's really bright around other stuff. So one of the first things we probably ought to do is go and get some charts for the flight. Pretty simple. I'm going to go to the taxi tab for Boston, and the first thing, it will automatically pin the airport chart. Well, that's very nice and convenient, but what I would really rather do is I'm going to pin the parking gates map, and then I'm going to come up here and pin the ground chart, and then we'll go all the way to the top, and we're going to go to SID for our departure, and our departure today is the BLZZR departure. I'm going to pin that and also take a look at it, because one of the things that I want to do is get our initial climb clearance. A lot of stars and SIDs, a lot of SIDs, have an initial climb clearance. And that's usually going to be found at the bottom of the page. Every page is a little bit different. But in this case, our top initial climb clearance is going to be 5,000 feet. I'm just going to go and type that over in my flight notes. 5,000 feet. Because if you're on VATSIM, ATC might not say that you are, after departure, you climb and maintain 5,000 feet. Expect flight level 33010 after departure, that kind of deal, because they expect you to go and look at the actual chart and say, oh, okay. And now off to the side, I'm going to click the little pin here. And now you can see in the order that I need them, I have my parking gates, I have the airport chart, and I have the departure chart. So everything that I need, and I have it in the order that I need it. That's why I deselected, then reselected the airport taxi map. Now let's go to Dulles. And the same thing happened here. If you go to the taxi map, you see that they've gone and they've pinned that there. Well, I don't want that at the top. I want the star at the top. And the star is the Hyper 9 arrival. So I'm going to hit Hyper 9 arrival. I'm going to get that. Our approach today is runway 19 center. So let's see. There's ILS 1. Go down here. Some of those are a little small. 19 center. Now, if we're on VATSIM, I would be looking at the ATIS, and if 19 left and 19 right were also active, I would pin those in there too, because sometimes you're going to get moved over to another runway. In this case, it's just us flying today, so I'm not going to bother with the other runways. Now I'm going to go to taxi, and now I'm going to get the airport map, and I'm going to get the parking map, and now I'm going to hit the little pin. And it doesn't look like it gave me the parking map. Let's go to parking gates. Sometimes when you click it in this, it doesn't click them all. And you can see over here, now I've got the star, the ILS, the airport, and parking gates in the order that I need them. And I, back in the old days when we all had paper charts before EFBs and iPads and stuff, you would literally stack up your charts in the order that you needed them. So we stacked up our charts and we're all ready to go. With that, it's time to go ahead and that's sort of the preliminary work that you'll do. And now we'll walk down the jetway, come into the airplane, and we need to turn power. So up here, the way you start a 737 is the battery button. So let's click the battery button. And in this airplane, it will automatically guard your switches. So that's kind of a little time saver for you there. There's ground power available. I'm going to pop some ground power in and keep coming down here. I'm going to turn on one of the fuel pumps. As we run across the bottom here, I'm going to turn on the navigation lights. Those are the lights on the wingtips and the tail. I'm going to turn on the arm and guard the emergency exit lights. I'm going to keep going up here. Let's turn on cabin utilities and in-flight entertainment on the seats. Let's keep going up here. We're going to turn on the windshield heaters. Windshield heat is on. I'm going to keep going up. And the last thing we'll do here is we're going to get ready to do navigation. So one of the things you could do is you could dial this top dial over to heading and status and make sure that the brightness is turned all the way up and turn on nav for left and right. Right now it's monitoring the left side, and as we're starting the alignment process, you'll get a countdown up here of how many minutes to have the IRS system aligned and ready to go. And that is our first step. Other things that you might want to do, you could come in here in the middle of the panel and turn on the integrated lighting or the panel brightness. That's just going to make all the labels on the panel stick out a little bit better, and it's a little easier to read. Let's also do the panel brightness down here. Again, this is not a floodlight, but it makes the labels here just a little bit easier to read. You can also come down here and do the brightness down there. And you can do background lighting over on the autopilot up here. And you can change that level independently too. Okay, looking pretty good. Let's go over here. And now that we've got that going, let's start up the APU. Some airports you're going to have air conditioning piped into the bottom of the airplane. I'm going to go ahead and start an APU here so that we can get some AC going. It's getting to be warm here in the northern hemisphere. Might like a little bit of ATC. One of the differences between the MAX and the 737NGs is they removed the APU's EGT gauge, exhaust gas temperature. And while you might think that that might have something to do with the number of passengers that went to Taco Bell before the flight, it actually is how hot things are coming out of the tailpipe of the APU. You don't want it to get too hot back there. And that's your first gross joke of the day. Sorry. And you can even hear the APU starting on up. And APU back of the airplane and the tail. And what we'll eventually see is we're going to eventually see, sorry about that sniff, it's allergy season here. But what we're going to see is the APU generators coming online. There it is. So with the APU generator online, what we're going to do is we're going to leave ground power on, but I'm going to come over here and I'm going to flip the APU bleed on, and the isolation valve is open, so both the left and right sides are open, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on the packs, get a little AC going in the airplane because, you know, summertime, it's hot metal tube. Chances are it's getting a bit stuffy. Come on down here, it's flight management computer time. And what we've got going on down here is we're going to hit FMC. My Navigraph data is good till the end of July, so that's nice. Position in it, we are at Boston, KBOS, Boston Logan. Our gate today is Bravo 30. B30 is our gate. Knotted database. Clear it, delete it, go to page 2, grab a GPS position, come on back here and fill the boxes. Okay, so we got that going on there. Now we can go and start building a few things up, but let's go do a little weight and balance here. And for this, we're going to go to the payload balance. Now, if you were over on Navigraph, on the main page of Navigraph, you could have gone you could have gone to send data to the aircraft. You could do that. Let's go down a little bit of a weight and balance rabbit hole on this one. So we're going to come down to payload and balance today. And from here, you could enter the passengers, the fuel, the cargo manually, I believe. Or you could go and hit read from SimBrief, and we'll go ahead and bring that in there. And so that's going to get our passengers and our cargo and our fuel. And if you decide to, you can come over here, look at Navigraph, look at OFP. Let's just go to page 3 here. Go down a little bit. We're supposed to have 131 passengers, 5,800 pounds of cargo. And we'll look over here, 131 passengers and 5,763 pounds of cargo. So we've got that one. A critical number that you might want to look at, though, would be the fuel. We're supposed to have 13,259 pounds. That's what we have aboard. What we're supposed to have is, let's go to page 1 and block fuel. Page 1, block fuel. 13,259 is what we requested. 13,259 is what we have on board. Yay! We have all the fuel that we're going to need. So with that, we can go and start boarding the airplane. 2 ways that you can do it. You can load the aircraft, and you can do, well, 3 ways actually. You can do immediate load, you can do real time, which is 13 minutes, or fast time, which is 4 minutes. Let's just go ahead and hit the fast time button, okay? It's flight management computer time. So now that we've got this, it's route time, and instead of just importing the route, let's go ahead and do it manually. It's actually really pretty easy. So Boston, we're going to Dulles, K-I-A-D. Never a dull moment at Dulles. And we are a United flight today. My standard old flight number, because it's hard to remember flight numbers. I am not going to request the flight plan, though. No, we're not going to do that. Let's come over here, and we're going to go back to Navigraph, and we're going to go to page 3. No, we want 2. And there's our route, because we only have 2 waypoints. We have BLZZR and Bath. So let's get ready to rumble. Page 2. And our first waypoint's name is BLZZR. BLZZR, BLZZR. After BLZZR, we're going direct to the Bath VOR. So Bath. And there it is. That's flight plan. That's how easy it. If we had an airway, we would have put the airway in on the VIA side. And that's, again, super duper easy, right? Okay, now then, let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to page 1. And we're going to go to the performance tab for just a second here. There's a neat little thing, and I was kind of thinking, you know, where could we go and get some weather without having to go and launch a web browser or something? Well, over on the Performance tab, click Real Weather, and see it's got our departure airport Boston. It just went and got our METAR and our TAF. Yay! Isn't this great? So, our altimeter is 29.78. So, 29.78. It's a really small number. So you dial up here and you read under the altitude tape, 2978. Okay, we got that all set. Just wanted to go ahead and grab that one for the moment. Let's see, the only other thing that we've got here is we could go and dial in our initial climb and maintain, which is 5,000 feet. And looks like the wind control autopilot's working. I don't have the camera set up on it right now. I was doing something else. You probably saw I did a video yesterday on the wind control upper panel and some groovy little ideas for maybe installing it where it's supposed to be. Let's wait till we get up in the sky and we can yap about that a little. But now let's go ahead and get ready for our departure and arrival. Departure, we're expecting runway 33 left. So 33 left is our runway. It's the BLZZR 6 departure, no transition, and execute. Page 2. Here's the fix. So like I was talking about at the beginning, some airports and some arrivals, when you go and set up your arrival here, you're going to find a whole lot of waypoints missing. It's happened to me about 3 times now. Over on the live spy flight live stream, I'm trying to remember who came in with the information and basically said there is a fix for this. And the fix for this is really simple. What you do is usually we choose our runway and then we choose the arrival. This time we choose the arrival first. So it's the Hyper 9 arrival. We're coming in via BAF. And then you choose your runway. ILS 19 center. And we have Koval, Crackle, and Cuts. And we have another page of that. So now we have to go over, and this is why you get your charts all set up first. Terminal, star, nope, Hyper arrival. So the Hyper 9 arrival for 19 center, is this a vectors or do we have a direct link? So we're coming down from the north. Some of these numbers are a little hard to see. All right, those are approach transitions. We're not doing any of those. It looks like it's just basically straight on in. Let's see. All right, here we go. Okay, so for the 19s, our last waypoint at 9,000 feet is FAT. So it's 9,000 feet at FAT, and then it's a heading of 230 degrees, and then straight into the runway. Okay, we can handle that. Over here, we can grab one of these. There's Cuts. What do we have? Koval, Crackle, Cuts. Anything else entertaining? Lawn, Nodox. Nooks. Why don't we just go ahead and I'm going to get Nooks. That's kind of a ways out, and 9,000 feet. Cuts. That's 4,000. I'm going to go and do Cuts. It's just us flying, so I'm going to do the Cuts transition and come in. There's still going to be vectors. But now if we come on over to legs, the big bad surprise is going to be, no, you really aren't going to have a bunch of waypoints blown off. So vectors, it takes us to Hyper and FAT at 9,000 feet. Then it's vectors to Cuts. So that looks really good, and we'll just close that discontinuity because vectors is in there. All right, this looks good. Let's come on down here to route, and it's performance time. Over on Mr. Flight Plan, it's our cruise today is 34,000 feet. So you can do it two ways, 340 or 34000, and it'll convert it to flight level 340. Cruise winds, that's over here, 254 at 88 knots. 254 at 88 knots. Our temperature deviation today, that's average ISA, it's +4, so we're not too terribly deviant. Acceptive clores for my sense of humor, and that's just the way it is. Cost index is 30. Cost index is 30. Our reserves are supposed to be, its final reserve and alternate is 5.253. I'm going to call it 5.3. 5.3. And zero fuel weight. Now for here, if you look at the top, it says we should have been about 130,500 pounds. If we go over to performance, nope, not performance. If we go to weight and balance, our zero fuel weight says 130.5. And if you click this airplane, it'll give you that number anyway. But if you want to be like a real pilot, you should probably look at that. Okay, all of this looks great. And that looks wonderful. Let's go ahead and start closing some doors. We still have a few things to do, but passengers are aboard. So let's get ready to get out of here. Doors. I'm going to go and close my cargo doors. I'm going to close the left front entry door. I'm going to wait till this one turns green. And now I'm going to click arm all doors. So now the slides are ready to go. I'm going to back off over here. I'm going to go to ground services, and I'm going to release my jetway. There goes the jetway. Let's come up here. We're going to flip the generators over to the APU from ground power, and I'm going to just flip that switch off. Doors are closed, seatbelts going on, electric hydraulic pumps can go on too. And I'm going to disconnect the ground power chart, and all of this is good. I'm going to pull the chocks from the main wheels. I'm going to verify my parking brakes are on. I'm going to turn the nose wheel and get out of that. Now let's go ahead and have GSX prepare to push us back. So GSX, prepare for pushback and departure. And there comes our ground crew. Hi, ground crew. How's it going?
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Yep, we're good to go too. Right on. So now let's finish up a few things here. Let's first of all do departure performance. So performance. Now here you can go and just read some data in. So read the Microsoft Flight Simulator data. That's going to get your airport, the runway information. You do need to choose
Departure checks completed. Bypass
whether or
ban
not
started.
it's wet, dry, snowy, all of that. So it's dry. Now we need to do the flaps. We'll do flaps 5. AC, air conditioning is on because we care about the comfort of our passengers. Anti-ice will be off. Takeoff rating, let's go -2 D-rate. Let's go and get the weather. It's still 2978, and let's calculate it. Sometimes you have to hit it twice to get the numbers every now and then. So we're all ready to go there. So we're going to D-rate
Locking gear.
and assume temperature. I just leave it at the max number right now. There's probably a better setting for me, and I need to learn that. So it's 46 degrees and -2. And go to takeoff. We already know it's flaps 5. The center of gravity is over here. It's 21.8. You can either enter it manually or just click CG and it will work for you. Let's see. Facing north on spot. B3 or B2? I don't remember. It's going to be hard to see, but let's see if we can't figure this out. So over here, Navigraph, terminal. Nope, we want Boston. And the parking stands. We're at Bravo 30. We're at Bravo 30. And it says facing north on spot 3, B2. Okay, so B3 or B2 or east on spot B. Let's do east on spot B.
Release parking brakes, please.
Okay, so we'll just let them sit for just a second here and we'll finish up our performance. So let's see. CG is now in. And it'll also, this airplane, you can turn it off, but it'll automatically set your trim for takeoff when you enter in the trim, the center of gravity. I'm leaving that on a little bit. Okay, and it's 139, 139, 146. 139, 139, 146. Come up to the autopilot. 146 is our speed. That looks pretty good. Now, there's one thing that us sim pilots don't do, but the real pilots do. And at about the time that you're doing this, you need to do your landing dispatch check. And what this is this is based on all your math, your weight and balance, and what we know about what's going on at Dulles, can you safely land the airplane? So I'm going to read my Microsoft Flight Simulator data. And we know that it's dry in Dulles, so we're going to go dry. Flaps, I usually do flaps 30. Air conditioning I leave on. Anti-ice is off. Speed brakes are going to be auto brakes. It's the 1.9s. How about auto brakes too? Now let's load the real world weather. And then what we can do is calculate. And what this should tell us is, are we legal to take off? Can we land? Are there no problems with our landing? So it basically gives us all green. Our landing distance, our approach speed is going to be 158. Basically, our landing dispatch says, hey, before we even take off, we know that the weight and balance is going to be just fine, the weather's going to be just fine, and we can land. So we got that taken care of too. All right, so with all of that, let's go back to Navigraph. Let's go to the airport. We're departing on runway 33 left. So, whoops, wrong way. Runway 33 left. There's good old 33 left. So 33 left, our heading on departure is 330 degrees. So 330 degrees. That looks good. And we can do our taxi out. It's basically going to be probably Bravo, Charlie, cross the 4s, Chuckles, cross 9, and Chuckles out to the runway. I know it's supposed to be Charlie, but we're in a fun mood today. This is the point where I'm going to say, okay, altimeter is set, departure, takeoff speeds, heading is set, altitude is set. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my flight directors. Turn on the one on the side you're flying first, and then you turn on the other one for the co-pilot. So the flight directors are now on. That looks really good. Let's get the beacon turned on. Cabin call. Let the cabin crew know we're going to push the airplane back. And we'll go ahead and turn on the rest of our fuel pumps. Ground crew is waiting for us. Are we ready to go? Parking brakes off.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
And out we go. So let's see here. There's a point here that we cross that's supposed to be, you know, where there's supposed to be no more equipment, no more tugs, no more suitcases or anything like that. And you wait until your engines are beyond that. That way you don't have anything get sucked into the engine. And then we can start. So packs off. I believe, let's see, it's different for every airline, but most are going to say start engine number 2 on a Boeing. And on this one, what you do is hit start and fuel, because this one's all automatic. Start sounds on this airplane are freaking amazing. They're just really good. There is one person who flies with us on the spy flight all the time, and he really likes the sounds for this. And one day, at home, starting up the airplane, and instead of, you know, headphones and stuff, had the airplane on the big speakers and all that, cranked up the big speakers while the engine was starting. And apparently it just shook things in the house, and other people in the house yelled at him. Said, "You're making too much noise," because the engine sounds are so good.
Please set parking brakes.
And the engine sounds really are great. Okay, parking brakes are set. I did not, I tapped them. My brakes are a little bit sensitive. Okay, there we go. So let's see. I should have set a SQUAWK code here, 0007. And transponders are on. We're not on VATSIM, so didn't do it too well. Okay, parking brakes are still good. We got a good start on engine number 2. Let's start engine number 1.
Unlocking gear.
Engine number 1 starts. And here comes fuel. I've got some of my camera commands that are a little bit fast,
Tow truck
jerky and
disconnected.
stuff.
Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
And let's see, we're going to get our salute and release from guidance. That's what United calls it. And they're hold up a gear pin. Yep, we took the gear pin out, see? And then after that, we'll get a wave, unless we were rude, and then maybe they'll give us the finger. I don't know. Who knows? Have you noticed lately that the GSX tug has just been going like totally crazy? Like it drives through the airplane. Oh no, the physics police are going to come get us. Because you can't have two solid objects occupying the same space at the same time unless you have a sonic screwdriver aboard your TARDIS, or there's going to be a very serious problem. I don't know what it is. And in some cases, the little tug has been driving around all over the place. It's really been kind of funny to watch. You know, it goes out and it drives out on the runway. It goes over here. It's so clearly something's a bit amiss with that, which is entertaining. Okay, everything is looking good here. Let's get the packs back on. Keep the cabin nice and comfy for the passengers. Let's go turn the generators off the APU and onto the engines. Let's go ahead and isolation valve to, I believe it's either off or auto. I leave mine on auto. That might be wrong. The APU bleed can go off, but make sure that pneumatics both left and right are still on. Up here, everything looks good. Check the probe heaters on this airplane. They're auto, so just leave them on auto. We need to come over here and turn on the yaw dampers. And I also like to turn the electrical monitor over to generator 1. From there, I'm going to turn off the APU. We're going to come down here and do flaps 5. There's flaps 5. Auto brakes to RTO. Apparently on the MAX, you do not arm the speed brake for departure. And we're ready to go. So out we go, Alpha 2, Charlie. Let's get going. Parking brakes are off. Taxi light is on. Continuous restart. Then what we'll do is take the throttles, run them up about halfway. If it starts beeping at you, your takeoff configuration is wrong. And you got to figure out, okay, did I forget my flaps, my speed brakes, you know, auto brakes, what did I do? Or is something turned on that's not supposed to be turned on? That's basically your takeoff config check in a Boeing. This is I think this is the really nice Dr. Z scenery package for Microsoft Flight Simulator for Boston. Dr. Z has had really nice sceneries in both X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator, so this is a good one. Let's see, it's going to be a VNAV and LNAV departure. So after you start to run up your throttles, there is in a lot of airplanes to get to the takeoff, to set your takeoff thrust, there's what's called the secret screw. And that's basically these screws up here. You click them, you see how I've got a pointer and now I've got a little finger here. That's basically a secret button that you can press, and that sets your takeoff power, okay? There's another way that you can go about doing that, and that's down here on the throttles. And it's this button that's right under here. So there it is, auto takeoff and go around button, toga button. So there's the button, and it's kind of hard to get to that button. At least on some 737s. On this one, I can actually get to it on the takeoff roll. So instead of hitting the super secret screw, we'll instead hit that button, and it should work pretty good. And let's check our taxi. Yep, we're crossing the runways. And if we were on VATSIM, of course, stop at the runways, read back your taxi clearance. We're just kind of jetting along here right now. This should be a really nice flight. Usually on my setup, I'll hit FMC on the co-pilot side and hit progress over here. It's 369 miles to Washington, Dulles. And we're coming up on Charlie. We bear right. So a little bit of a turn to the right there. I think that this is a small hold pad or a de-icing pad over here. And we're going to bear off to the right here. You don't want to get going too fast and stuff like that. So I'm basically thrust idle at the moment. But how fast are we going? Well, the ground speedometer is up here for ground speed. We're going almost 30 knots down the taxiway here. So we're kind of cooking along. Very, very long taxis, like going out to that far north runway at Denver International Airport and stuff, or taxiing out to the Polderbaan or something in Copenhagen, not Copenhagen, Amsterdam. Those kinds of taxis, you can sometimes go up to about 20 to 30 knots. But anything beyond that, you're going too fast on the taxiway. And we're about ready to make a 90-degree turn here, so you want your speed to be closer to 10 knots. Otherwise, you might take the turn too fast, and the first-class passengers that have already been provided with beverage service might spill their beverages. And we don't want to spill any first-class beverages now, do we? There we are, 3-3 left.
3 left.
Yay, let's stop here. Couple more buttons that I'm going to press. I'm going to hit airport, data, and traffic. Probably should do that before we leave the gate. Let's go ahead and arm the auto throttle. Auto throttle is armed. And then I'll flip on over here to my departure chart, and it's time to go. So ATC says get out of here. So I'm going to flip this over to strobes, steady and strobes. One final cabin call. Let them know we're actually going to do that flying thing. Even though ATC might clear me onto a runway, I'm always going to look out here. Just make sure there's not a set of landing lights coming our way, because they might miss something. Sometimes that happens. Hardly ever. But, you know, it's like if you're about ready to cross a busy street. You look both ways, right? Yeah, same deal here. And around we go. Might need a little differential braking to make this turn.
On runway 3 left.
There we go. So let's see, landing lights are going on. All right, remember that one toga button I was telling you about? So throttle's up about halfway. There goes our throttles halfway. Engines are stable. Let's look down here, and you see you can click right underneath the throttle, and that puts us into, that gives us our takeoff thrust.
27.
And there is 80 knots, checked. Little bit of a crosswind today. Coming up on V1. There's V1 and rotate. Up and away time. Positive climb, gear going up. Landing gears up. And we got a little bit of a turn here, not much of one. Passengers enjoying a nice view. That highway you see down there that kind of is just disappearing under the wing, that's what goes under that big long tunnel in Boston. The airplane flies very, very nicely by hand. It really does. One of the things I always like to say, especially if you're in a complex airplane like this and in a complex event on VATSIM, there is no shame at turning on the autopilot in a complex VATSIM event. No shame at all, okay? Because look at this, I'm already behind on getting my flaps up. I need to disarm the auto brakes. At this point, switch over to departure. There is downtown Boston. And just under the wing is the official law firm of, well, the former law firm of the spy flight. Crane, Pool, and Schmidt is over there. 400 Boylston, I think. Let's see, it's a Boeing, so we're going to be constantly going over and updating, dialing the heading bug around. And looks really good. It's already starting to get super duper hazy. Oops, I forgot to do TCAS. Always forget to do TCAS. And that looks really good. Let's just go ahead and we're going to continue our climb now to 34,000 feet. Let the airplane do some of the work for us. That was our final cruise. Let's start making the map a little bit bigger here. That looks really good. And it's holding on to that 5,000 feet. Let's do altitude intervention, and the airplane's going to finish our climb. After takeoff items, flaps are up, speed brakes are down, landing gear is up, auto brakes are disarmed, taxi light, I'm going to go off. Nope, that was the APU. There's the taxi light. It's time for a new mouse pad here at Spy HQ. And there we go. The clock for the airplane is over here. And you can see that our time is 18:02 Zulu. If we come down here, it says we're going to be landing at Dulles at 18:58 Zulu. So a little less than an hour. And then our flight will be done. This is tracking out very, very nicely. An important number that I did not look at. So let's say you're in a big VATSIM event and there's a ton of airplanes in front of you. Well, there's a number here called minimum takeoff fuel. And minimum takeoff fuel is, do you have enough fuel to fly the flight? Legally. And I needed 12,944 in the tank. Right now, we have got 12,000. Now, we also did the takeoff, and you're supposed to check that number before you take off and stuff, so we're a little bit late to the game, but we've got enough fuel to do that. But especially on a big VATSIM event or a big long haul like cross the pond, holy moly. You're going to have some potential delays on cross the pond for sure. So if you've got those big delays going on, check that takeoff fuel before you go. Otherwise, it's going to be, eek, we're running out of fuel. And no sim pilot wants to do a mid-air refueling. That's a lot more, shame, sim pilot shame than, turning on the autopilot a little bit too soon. There's 11,000 feet, plane speeding up, so landing lights off. Continuous restart off. Check pressurization. Are we pressurizing the airplane? Yes, and the cabin is climbing, so our passengers will remain healthy and happy. That looks really good. And our speed's coming up to about 280, 290 to climb. 287 is what's supposed to be our best climb speed. The cabin itself is very nicely modeled. iFly did a really, really good job. And the custom liveries that come with the airplane that you can get from the iFly manager, they're looking pretty good too. A few of them are needing semi-regular updates though, so be sure you go and get those updated. If you're new to this flight sim world, yes, on a lot of our airplanes, the good ones, you can see the seatbelt signs. And it works too, by the way. Let's see, usually as I push back from the gate, I come up here to the top menu to make sure that GSX is turned off, and it is. 15,000 feet. They even did a really nice job of modeling, the basic seat colors and all of that in the cabin. So if you got a particularly long cruise, it's fairly nice to go back, just pick a seat and enjoy looking out the window. So over here we've got a really, really nice view. And since it's all satellite photography and real world weather, if we were on a real world flight to Dulles from Boston, this is pretty much what it would look like outside the window. Let's see, 18,000 feet. hit the STD button, standard altimeter, not that other STD thing. And we're at standard altimeter. 59 nautical miles to our top of climb. And then one of the things that I like to do is come on over here and every now and then go to performance, click real weather, click Dulles, and just check the weather. So winds are 200 at 7 knots. It's 10 miles visibility, a few clouds here and there, 2987. The weather hasn't changed much. So that way we can stay up to date on the arrival and make sure that we're going to be good for the no big changes. And if there are changes, now that's just the METAR, it's not the actual ATIS, but as soon as I can, I start taking a look at digital ATIS for arrival airports if I can. And I start looking at those to see, okay, did they change the runway on us? Is the arrival runway different? Because it is so much easier, especially in a big VATSIM event, to do a lot of that stuff sooner rather than later. If you wait till later, you're going to be really busy changing frequencies, turning 30 degrees to the right, entering a hold, exiting the hold, and a bunch of other stuff. That isn't an awful lot of fun. So, you probably noticed me zipping around the cabin, and I've got some pretty nicely predefined camera views. I'm using Chase Plane. Chase Plane is great if you are, not just if you're, doing YouTube videos and live streaming. Chase Plane is great just if you're going to be flying around by yourself, because you can set multiple camera views. For instance, this is my main view here. If I look at my flight management computer view, that same button will move me over to the co-pilot side, back to the pilot side, and that's all hitting the same button. You can put several different views on one keyboard button, and that's how it is that we were able to go outside. Remember when we were just taking off and we looked up and saw the landing gear going up? That's all just one button, and that's one of the cool things that you can do with Chase Plane, which I think is pretty neat. But one of the other things that I do with Chase Plane that I think is a nice idea, and you may want to go and take a screen grab of this. So if you're watching it on your computer at home or on a phone or something, take a screen grab of this next graphic. This is these are the ways that I have my my view buttons set up. All of my views, camera views, are controlled with the number pad on the keyboard. And the 0 view at the bottom is always my main flying view. Number pad number 1 is the flight control unit autopilot. Number 2 is the McDo. Number 3 is comms and radio. 4 is the primary flight display and nav display. 5 is the upper panel. 8 is always the electronic flight bag, and I usually have right window and left window for 7 and 9 buttons. And then usually a nice cockpit overview or something like that. And so those are the ways that I'm able to jump from a Boeing to an Airbus to an MD-11 or whatever else we're flying that day, because every one of my cockpits is set up so that the 5 button is always the upper panel. It's always the upper panel. The 4 button is always a close view of my flight instruments. And it really does help make things move just a little bit faster, especially if you're going to want to fly multiple kinds of airplanes in Frankfurt Friday, vectors to Copenhagen, Friday night ops, Saturday night ops. You're really getting busy, and if you want to vary your airplanes around, that's a great way to always know that your flight management computer is button number 2, regardless of the airplane. It's quite a time saver. Let's see, our climb's going pretty good. We are 311 miles from Washington Dulles. Should be landing at 1859 Zulu. It is 1810 Zulu. And it's already set our elapsed time. It even gives us our flight number. We're squawking 0007. And if we put a CLCAL in, now I think that CLCAL is for the airplane. I don't know that CLCAL that you see there is going to be the one that you would put into V-Pilot. If you're going to be like across the pond, you get a CLCAL code. I don't know that. I think that that's just what the livery says the CLCAL is. You could probably change that in settings somewhere if you cared. But I hardly ever look at that part of the screen anyway. I'll also, at some point before top of climb, go kind of run up and down the upper panel, see if there's any lights that are flashing, blinking, or buzzing or anything like that. And make sure fuel pumps are happy, generators are happy, nothing weird there. We've got windshield heat, we've got probe heat, engine anti-ice is what we want. Over on the pneumatic panel, we have packs on, APU bleed and isolation valve set, and then make sure that on this airplane, your landing elevation and your cruise flight on pressurization, it automatically sets itself. Over on the other 737s, you got to set those manually. It's not automatic. And then make sure that the cabin is climbing or at cruise. The real pilots are always keeping an eye on pressurization. We may need to be going and flipping radios around. So since if we were on VATSIM, we would have our main radio now set to 122.8. Got that one there. So that looks pretty good. As we approach climb, I brought up the wind wing upper panel. That wind control is going to be putting out for the Airbus. They had one at Expo, and a lot of people were looking at that saying, wow, that's so cool. And I was watching some of the videos that came back from Expo and was thinking, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I don't just want it to sit on a table like right there. I want it up there. I think it'd be cool to have it up there. How would I go about doing that? And I've scrounged some parts around my little apartment here, and that's the video that is in the video lineup on YouTube that I produced yesterday. And I had two ideas about what might be a good way to mount it so that your upper panel is up there. And one of them I had on a fairly heavy duty, light stand. If you're doing camera work, you've got lights and stuff. And I had a really good heavy duty light stand. I also had a little thing that I could have a little pole out there and it'd stick out at the right angle, so I could put that just right there. Didn't really know too much about how heavy it was. I was just looking at it, I was thinking, I don't know, what, 10 pounds? I'm not sure. 20. Then one person did a YouTube video from Expo, said it was between 15 and 20. Okay, so I loaded my little light stand with a little boom arm with a couple of weights, and it looked like it was pretty steady. But I thought, it could possibly be heavier. And if it does get heavier, that little, light stand sitting, behind your computer table, probably not the best of ideas. And then somebody put a comment in that said, no, it's actually closer to 30 pounds. So while we're climbing here, give me just a second. Okay, so I've got a couple of weights that I used to use when I was racing bicycles and stuff. And the guy said it's closer to 30 pounds. Okay, so 30 pounds. So let's go to Big Cam for a second. Here is one of those weights. This is 20 pounds. I'm not racing bicycles anymore, so I don't use this very much, but this is 20 pounds. And if that thing weighs 20 pounds, the little mic stand idea that you'll see in the video before, that's probably not going to work. This would be heavy for sure. So 20 pounds, probably not going to work out so well. I think maybe the second solution, which is a very, very big clamp for my desk, and a big heavy-duty pole that I've got a couple of, because I've got some monitors here, and one of them is portrait off to the side, and it's on a pole, not sitting on the desk. Maybe that'll work, but even still, this thing's heavy. And if it's as heavy as this, and that's, again, this is only 20 pounds, holy moly. So the video that I did yesterday is a couple of ideas, but until we actually get the thing in our hands, we're going to have to be prepared for something that might be a little heavier. I'm just updating my heading bug here, because I was really surprised. If it's as heavy as that 20-pound weight, is that really 20 pounds? Wow. I don't know. It's metal and plastic, but apparently it's about what, 2 feet, 3 feet square or something like that. You still want to have it, you know, up where the actual panel would be, right? But I don't know if that's going to be the best thing or not. Anyway, if you've got any thoughts about that, you know, I'm still reading all the comments on there as everybody kind of gets together to MacGyver a way of mounting this thing. Let's go and do the range. I'm going to move that out to about 80 miles now. So I usually have my range to 80 miles on this one. And that looks pretty good. And we are, 144 miles to top of descent. So that's pretty good. One of the other things, if you're still learning a lot about this particular airplane that they've included, is they now have a very, very nice user manual that is in here. And so I think, well, it just flashed at us. I wonder if it went out and updated it. So there's an EFB supplement, operating supplement, system operation and flight tutorial, flight plan introduction, and procedures introduction. These look like some really good ones. Just the first user manual's 34 pages. Let's look at the procedure. Procedures are 12. System operations, 81 pages. I think when it goes like that, maybe it's updating itself. I'm not sure. So, it's got a nice picture of the galley and the cockpit. And I think there is a chance that this little thing outside here might be modeled too. I haven't looked at it yet. Let's look out and see. So come around over here. So a lot of this, there's stuff to play with over here. Okay, so this is your boarding music. Boarding music, there's maintenance. I don't know if that actually works, but it looks like it does. Here is passenger services, lighting. Here's a wipe for the display. Passenger services, IFE is off. Okay, we turned on the IFE. Maybe it's on there and you would use this to turn it off. I don't know. Gotta read the manual. And for maintenance, you have to enter a password to do maintenance. Anyway, there's all sorts of stuff that's modeled here. Wonder if we can get a decent cup of coffee here. There is actually an airplane where the coffee maker on switch has been modeled. Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay, we got to bring our own coffee. If you're in a long flight, those kinds of little bits of entertainment are highly entertaining for sim flight pilots, right? But, you know, one of the best things to do is just, if you've got a little bit of time, come on back here, set yourself up in your favorite seat. Mine is usually 10A, right in front of the engine in the wing, and you kind of get to go out and look and just see and enjoy the view. And with it being satellite photography, scenery, and real world weather, it's just really nice sometimes to be able to go and do that. If you come over here and you go to Navigraph and en route, you're also going to get some maps that you can look at. You can zoom this thing in and give you an idea of kind of where you are. So, you know, we're coming up on Let's see. Gotta be coming up here on New York, right? Or did we already pass all that? Let's see. What airports do we have coming up here? Yep, there's Teterboro up there. There is Newark. There's LaGuardia. So yeah, we'll be coming up on New York City. Off on the left side of the airplane. So hopefully you brought your own paste picante sauce instead of sauce that's made in. And if you don't get that joke, that's a very, very old TV commercial. There, you can look that up, paste on YouTube. Let's see, what else can we do? Another thing to keep an eye on now is our estimated landing fuel. And our estimated fuel at Dulles is 7,400 pounds. Over on Mr. Flight Plan, there's a special number here in the fuel budget. And it's down here, there's two numbers. There is our alternate, the fuel to get to our alternate, and our alternate today is Philadelphia. That's 3,200 pounds. And then an additional 30 minutes of flying time, final reserve, is basically 2,000 pounds. You add these two numbers together, alternate and final reserve, and you get the number that's down here. And that's FinRes plus Alton, or final reserve plus alternate, and that's going to be 5,253 pounds of fuel. Remember when we were putting in the initial performance data, and I went and put this number in here? This is the amount of fuel that we have to, when we are at 5,200 pounds, we need to either be landed, or on our way to the alternate at that point in time. If you look over here, you can see that we're at 9.7, 9,700 pounds of fuel. We don't have to start worrying about our alternate until it's 7.5. No, we're going to have 7.5. I said that completely wrong. So we have 9,700 pounds of fuel. We are expecting to have 7,500 pounds of fuel, but if it's down to 5,200 pounds, we ought to be landing at that time or heading off to our alternate. Boy, did I say that completely wrong. And our alternate today is Philadelphia. 105 miles to top of descent. So in my sim world, when I get to about 100 miles from top of descent, this is the point where I go and start doing my descent preparations. Convenient the way that works, right? Okay, so first step, Navigraph, terminal, Dulles, and the hyper arrival. We know that our arrival, if they clear us to descend for the hyper arrival Dulles landing south, we know that we're cleared to descend to 9,000 feet. As soon as ATC says something like that to me, that I'm cleared to descend via an arrival and the direction of landing, I'm going to go and look at the last altitude on that part of the landing, and I'm going to at that point come over here and I'm going to put in that 9,000 feet. It was 9,000, wasn't it? Yes, it was 9,000. The reason that I'm going to do it that way is as soon as they say United 441 cleared to descend via the hyper arrival Dulles landing south, that told me that I'm cleared to descend, and if I know that I'm cleared to descend, I'm going to put that number in there, even though I'm not ready to descend yet. So I put that number in the window there because I know that I'm cleared to that altitude at my convenience. Okay, so we've got that one. The next thing we ought to do is, it's a Boeing, so we got to put in our own ILS data. So 111.3 is our ILS. Come on down here, flip ILS 11130, and we'll make that active. We could, if they had another active runway, I would have taken the ILS frequency for the other runway that's active, but I'm not expecting. I would have put that right down in there so that if they said send me over to the other runway, I have one button to push, and that's literally it to get the ILS to land, because sometimes those switch to the other runway clearances come very, very late in the landing process, and you're very busy. Our inbound course is 191. So course heading 191. There we go, 191. And then our minimums, which is at the bottom. Our minimums today for the ILS is 472 feet. So that's over here on minimums. And it's a ridiculously small number here that's very hard to see. So I spun the little dial around a bit, and I'm at 476. It needs to be 472. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And then go verify it again. 472. We're good. All right. Now then, make that just a little bit bigger so that we can see that. That looks good. There's the hyper arrival. We'll move that over there. And now let's go back to performance. So we did the landing dispatch data, performance data, and it basically said we're going to have, the plane will be good to land. Now we're going to do the landing en route, and it's going to go and put some of that information in. But I'm going to go and verify dry, flaps 30, AC on, anti-ice off. Brakes are going to be auto brakes 2. Reversers. Well, let's see, our choices are all operational. One of our reversers is inoperative, or both are inoperative. Well, all of them are operative. And NNC, this is basically what doesn't work. Well, our flaps are working, everything's working, so there's nothing broken in the airplane. So landing weight, VREF, this has been adding 5 knots to our landing speed. I kind of like having that. I'm going to load in the weather. 2987 is our new altimeter. Let's dial that in. And verify it, because it's really small. 2987. And calculate. So VREF plus 30 flaps plus 5 knots is 147. Our landing distance should be about 7,000 feet on a 11,500 foot runway. Everything's good to land. So we got that set up there too. So you're going to do your takeoff performance, you're going to do the landing dispatch performance, and then the actual landing performance when you're about 100 miles out. And we got that going. And all of that looks really good. Generally, I've turned off cabin voices in my airplane. They're kind of cool, but sometimes they get a little bit annoying. And let's go back to Navigraph. And we can go back to the en route chart. And we are 67 miles from top of descent. Everything else looks good. I might forget, so now might be a good time when you do your landing performance. I'm going to dial in auto brakes 2, because I said auto brakes 2, right? Am I having a gray hair moment? I hope not. Performance. Auto brakes 2. Woohoo, I remembered right. Yes, so auto brakes 2. That way we don't forget, and auto brakes are preset. One of the things that I'm getting to the point of is needing a checklist now for the airplane. It's about time. It's getting complex enough that a checklist would be very, very nice. So there you go. Nothing else to worry about here. I really have not done an awful lot of changes to the basic settings on the airplane. So it's pretty much what iFly gave us. Man, gonna need a teleprompter there with all the different names of people making things. I've let my course heading drift a little bit. We need this straight up there on the course. There's our top of descent. So in an Airbus, the little top of descent looks like a hockey stick. Here it's just a dot, a green dot with TD on it. 57 miles to top of descent. One of the things that it'll also give you is we're 55 miles and our top of descent is going to begin at 1840 Zulu, okay? Well, let's see, right now it's 1832. So you can say, all right, well, we got about 8 minutes or so to top of descent. And that's one of those places where the pilots, sometimes they'll pop on and say, hey, folks, from the cockpit, we're about ready to start our descent into Washington, Dulles, blah, 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 the weather. Well, you can actually time it so that you can, get the time exactly right. Let's go to the page 3. I haven't looked at the forecast page yet. Let's see if we can request descent winds. Don't know if we can do this in this plane or not. Invalid forecasts uplink. Okay. Didn't like that. So I probably have a setting to go and put in. I probably have a setting for that. Let's go back to VNav. Oh, here's a cool thing that we can do. Let's get range rings and fixes. Extended runway, center line, and range rings. So we know we're landing on runway 19 center, right? Let's go to terminal charts, Dulles, and the airport. So we are basically going to land on 19 center. The opposite direction for this runway is 011 degrees, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the fix button, and our fix is going to be runway 19 center. So RW for runway. And now we have 3 things that we can do. Well, the first thing is I want a center line out of the middle of the runway. So 011 is the opposite direction, and I would like a circle around the end of the runway 5 miles out. That's my top one. The next one, I don't need a heading or I don't need a line, so I'm going to do a slash, and I'd like a circle around the end of the runway 10 miles out. And then the last one is 25 miles. I think that basically varies as far as airline policy, pilot's personal preference. I just do 5 miles, 10 miles, and 25 miles. Now we'll go back to VNav. And as we get closer, you're going to see a green circle around Dulles, and that's 25 miles. And you'll also see a dashed center line out the middle of the runway. What that's going to help with is situational awareness. Saying, oh, we're 25 miles from the end of the runway, probably ought to start thinking about slowing down and, descending, that sort of silly stuff. Oh, we're 10 miles from the runway. Gee, we ought to start really thinking about slowing down. We're 5 miles from the end of the runway. Did I put those wheels down yet? That kind of deal. So just really great reminders. And the real pilots will create all sorts of fixes. Like, let's say we had a step climb. It was a big, long flight, and we were supposed to do a step line around the Sarah waypoint in our flight plan. We're supposed to step from flight level 340 to flight level 360. Well, you could have created a fix for Sarah and drawn like a 2-mile range ring around there. So you'd see that little dot around there, and that would be your little reminder. I was supposed to do something entertaining here at Sarah. What was that? Oh yeah, it was. It's a nice little reminder, and it works pretty good. especially for flights where you do have a step climb. You know, it's such a long flight. You got so much fuel that your final cruise is way above your maximum cruise level based on the weight of your airplane. So you can draw a little range ring around Sarah or whatever waypoint that you're going to do your step climb, and that's going to be a reminder. Okay, why did I draw a circle around Sarah here? Oh, it's because I wanted to do a step. So that's how that works. And you can go and clear those out really, really quickly. And it's very, very handy. And I'll tell you, one of the interesting things, if you're flying in an Airbus versus a Boeing, generally for a lot of things you do in the Boeing, you're going to press one or two extra buttons in a Boeing than an Airbus. Hey, fair's fair. Airbus is newer. Okay, they went to school on Boeing. They were able to make the workflow a lot smoother. Boeing's been around for a while. It's tough to change some workflows and stuff. So, the joke is for every one button you push in an Airbus, you have to push two buttons in a Boeing, something like that. The one exception to that is range rings and fixes. If you to try and do these same range rings and fixes and stuff like that here, you would still have to do you would have to type in the runway like 3 times. You have to type in the airport, just a bunch of extra stuff. So this the one thing that's simpler is doing fixes. In fact, I don't know if you saw, did you see over here on fixes? So there's 6 pages. Go to page 2. What was that? SARAA. SARAA, Sarah. And I want just a 5-mile, let's do a 2-mile ring around Sarah. Back to VNav, and now you can see, look at Sarah. See now how we have a 2-mile circle around Sarah to remind us to do something at Sarah? Very cool. And then once we're done with that, go to page 2, delete, go back to page 1, go back to VNav, and now that range ring around Sarah's gone. Really kind of a great way to put some special reminders in if you need a special reminder. And for those of us who are sim pilots, maybe we have a beverage in the cockpit, maybe we're a little tired, maybe it's a confusing VAT sim event, maybe we're just not paying attention. A little reminder like that is going to get your step climb in there. And that's a really cool thing to be able to have. So I like using those. Let's go over here and look and see. Dulles is 133 miles out. Our landing time has changed a little bit. Now it's 19:04 Zulu. We do have a headwind, and my guess is as the afternoon wears on, atmosphere heats up, the wind starts to pick up, gets a little more choppy out there in the hot afternoon. My guess is the winds are picking up just a bit, and it's slowing our ground speed down. So we've added about 3 to 4 minutes to our landing time. And that happens fairly regularly. 10 miles to top of descent. Nothing else really to do. I think we've gone and prepared everything. We've got the ILS is set. If we were on VATSIM, I'd be looking ahead at what frequencies are up. If there's tower, ground, delivery, ramp, all those sorts of things, I'd be looking over on vPilot to see what kind of frequencies are ahead, just because in an airplane, if you can think a few steps ahead, real planes and sim planes, boy, does that make your life a little bit better. But this airplane really has become a favorite. I remember when it first came out. When the iFly first came out, we just loved it. Now, we didn't have the other 737 NGs out yet, but now that we've got the really good electronic flight bag. And what had happened is when iFly originally put the MAX out, it gave you the electronic flight bag that came with it was one of the original electronic flight bags that was ever made for an airplane. I mean, it was like one of the very first ones, and it was just clunky. It was clunky. It barely got the job done. It was just no fun at all. And so once the NGs came out, a lot of us kind of forgot about the MAX here from iFly. But now that we've got this, I bet you're going to see a lot more MAXs flying around in the sim skies because it is such a good electronic flight bag. They really put some thought into it, and it's nice. We've started our descent. So, captain's calling back from the cockpit. Hey, folks, we've started our descent into Washington Dulles Airport. Winds at Dulles, they would probably come over here, over on that before they started the announcement, go to performance and hit real weather and hit Dulles. And they'd said, winds are looking pretty good. Just at about 7 knots should be a smooth landing. There's a few clouds bouncing around, but should be a really nice day. Gate, when we get there, should be Bravo 70. Bravo 71? Really? Bravo 71. I might have written that down wrong. I went to check to see what the real world flight would do. So Navigraph, parking gates. Does it go all the way up to 71 on the Bravos? Actually, it should be Charlie or Delta, not Bravo. I think I got the wrong gate. Oh, I originally did this flight plan for an American flight. That's why I've got Bravo 71 written down. It should be over here. So let's see. We should get probably, how about Delta 21 or Delta 19? That's a better choice. How about Delta 19? That's probably a better choice. Yeah, I was originally going to do an American, and I started the planning for that and then totally forgot about it. This is what I call my flight strip. You'll notice that that some of this information, I'm going to paste this into the description below. And that way you can just see kind of the way I've organized my data for the flight. So this is just kind of a real condensed flight plan for me. And you can see I'm using Notepad++, and it's really, really very handy. That way I'm not jotting stuff down on, reams and reams and reams of paper and stuff. So, but that's in the description. Oh, we got a new heading. Got to move that heading bug back up. Always like to keep the heading bug straight up. If for some reason the autopilot fails, at least I can look down at that and say, okay, that's the heading I should be flying. Also, as we start to get a little bit closer, I'm going to bring the range of the map in from 80 to 40 miles, and I'm going to keep a close eye on this little guy right here in the middle. That is the descent deviation indicator. Okay, I'm sure there's a more official name for that, but it gives me the opportunity to tell I'm doing a deviant joke or something like that. Anyway, as long as the diamond is kind of right in the middle there, you're on your best optimum descent path, and that's very nice to have. So let's see, we know we're going to be at Delta 9, and yeah, I'll even look at my gates to figure out. So it's going to be 19 center, so we're going to hope to be able to get off the runway at Yankee 7 to Delta right into the gate. So it's going to be a relatively short taxi going in. But I'll even, especially in a VATSIM event or something, I'll try and have a gate in mind, because almost always on the big events, if you can tell them what gate you want to go to, that's so much easier on the controllers. But I'll even kind of prepare and look ahead and see, okay, how's the taxi going to be? And Do I have to do anything immediate? Because this is a really busy time. You're landing, you're just getting off the runway, tower's saying contact ground, blah, 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 all while you're retracting flaps, taking care of this, taking care of that, redialing the frequency. It's a busy time. So if you have a general idea of what you're going to do getting off the runway and from there on what ATC tells you to do, that's a bit of a time saver for all this. Now's also the perfect time where it's 25,000 feet, so seatbelts. Oh, we never put seatbelts to auto. Passengers stayed in their seats the whole time. That's going to make for some cranky passengers, especially for the ones that had a little bit too much at the bar before departure. Sorry. Hey, it was a busy morning here at SPY HQ, so now's the perfect time to say thanks for watching. We're not wrapping up the video. We're still going to land and everything, but this is about the time that I'll say thank you for checking out my video. Thanks for checking out the channel here. Relatively new on YouTube, so all the things that YouTubers say about liking and subscribing and stuff. Did recently roll out some channel memberships, and every day that we do a live stream on Twitch and YouTube, I produce a small 10-minute pre-flight briefing that's got some worldwide weather, but also a look at what flights we're doing that day and what to expect along that day. What also we're going to be doing as far as VATSIM and stuff. Again, it's about 10 minutes every day that we fly. Sometimes the real world conspires and I'm not able to get the video done, but 99% of the time that it's for channel members there. If you also would like to get that video, it's also 757 SPY over on Patreon. But that's a little thing that I do there. Besides that, we do fly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I've been taking a few more Mondays and Thursdays off just so that I can produce a video like this, so that I can make a video like the weight, the upper panel video and a few more things. So I've been starting to do that, but pretty much you can count on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Plus, as you probably can tell, my voice is getting really messed up, so I probably should not talk as much. Okay, looking good there. There's 21,000 feet. Let's come over to performance again, and I'm going to request weather again. For Dulles, this is the 16th, so you look over here, the first number is the day, the 16th, and then the last time this weather report is 1752 Zulu. It is 1849. We're going to be getting a new one soon, but for now we'll just look at that and see. Last little check. I probably also only touched on the major points of the level of the cool things that you can do with this airplane. Oh, that seats. That's one of those. Yeah, bulkhead seats. Ugh, never liked the bulkhead seats. Can't put anything in the seat pocket in front of you in a bulkhead seat. But you can see just how nicely they've done the cabin here. Yes, they did model the lavatory. Yes, the toilet's flush in this airplane. Yes, the toilet's flush in the airplane. Some of the airplanes are even beginning to, they've got some basic maintenance that you have to regularly do on your airplane. I think they're making the maintenance things more or less optional because it is flight simulator, not maintenance simulator, but you still have the opportunity to do that. And in particular, a lot of the BizJet simulations are starting to include more of the financial aspects of operating a biz jet and some of the maintenance things there too. Let's see, the little STD has changed orange, so hit that button again and the altimeters are checked and set. And so far so good. Our descent deviation is looking really nice. We are not deviant. Come back over here. Let's also check to see. So there was Sarah. Remember we passed Sarah and then the Lancaster VOR. There's our little airplane. We just passed Delro. No speed restrictions, but at hyper there is one. Let's make sure that's in the flight plan. Legs. Hyper, 250 knots and 10,000 feet. And that's what we're supposed to be at hyper. So the airplane should take care of us there too. But sometimes they don't always load. So it's a good idea. And like the real pilots, they're going to check over every waypoint and make sure it's correct. And they're going to make sure it's correct in 2 totally independent flight management computers. So that, you know, every piece of data is, you know, verified as much as us silly little humans can verify something. One thing about this airplane, if you're going to arm your speed brake, you see where it says armed down here, you click that. That's what arms it. If you try and pull it back to armed, it's going to actually start deploying speed brakes. But that's so you click a little bit below that to arm your speed brakes for landing. I was a little bit tired, but I was trying to, you know, do a little bit more of learning how to perfect a few things with this airplane. So I was doing kind of a late night flight. I was really getting tired and everything. And again, didn't use a checklist. So sort of like it was landing. It was a great landing and I got the reversers going, but I noticed we really weren't slowing down that much. Well, gee, you've got to actually turn on the auto brakes before the auto brakes are going to actually work. Flying when you're tired is not the best thing to do. Fortunately, it was just me. I wasn't on VATSIM, so no controllers needed to yell at me. If you get a chance, take your drone cam and walk around the airplane. They are doing an incredibly good job. Some of the developers are really doing just amazing details outside the airplane. And you can see this airplane's really well optimized. So the details now are not showing up until you start to get really, really close to the airplane. But as you get close, you can see, you know, the rivets start to pop out and everything else. So the windows look really good. So one of the things to do with a lot of these airplanes is when you get a chance, go and use the drone cam. You could do walk around camera. Thing is that's your feet stay on the ground. You're going to have the normal range of motion of a human walking around the airplane. Thing is if you want to go and check up something really up close, you know, back here on the rudder, you know, it's really kind of hard to do that. You see the strobe light is off it's on either side of the APU there. Coming up on 11,000 feet. Everything's good here. Seatbelts are good. One of the things that we're going to be doing, and if you watch this within a day or two of me posting the video, then this is going to apply to you. But anything beyond that, this is old news. This is, you know, we will have already done this, is on Thursday, we're going to be taking the 737 MAX and we're departing from Stansted, going to Dublin and back to Stansted. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the famous Ryanair 30-minute turnaround. And for the 737 MAX, it's 30 minutes. For the other 737s, it's 25 minutes, I think. And that's one of the things that they do is they can spin the airplane super duper fast. So 30 minutes. So what we'll do is we'll fly the airplane, land, get to the gate. I don't know if you actually deboard passengers and stuff with this, but we'll get our flight plan back to Stansted ready to go, get a clearance. So we're going to stay on VATSIM, not reset the sim, and see if we can't beat the Ryanair 30-minute turnaround. And though departure time for the spy flight is always 1800 Zulu. Okay, 10,000 feet landing lights. And we're going to do continuous restart. And we're going to do an attendant call for 10,000 feet. And there's FAT at 9,000. So you can see there's hyper, there's FAT, and then it's going to be vectors. Okay, this is 40 miles. I'm going to increase my range a bit. Okay, so you can see there's the green line. So there's two green lines. The circle, that's my 25-mile range ring. This line right here is my extended center line. So we can kind of do some of our own little vectors here if we want to. Now it's going to, so it's vectors here after FAT, and then it's cuts. And at cuts, you want to be at 4,000 feet. You can see we're coming up on FAT here, so let's get the heading bug straight up. Heading is straight up. And then I'll reach over as we get a little closer. And you can see it managed our descent very well. We're at 9,600 feet. We wanted to be at 9,000 feet at FAT, and we're just right on the descent path. Really wasn't, it really handles a good arrival very, very nicely. It really does. Got some clouds outside. The total air temperature is 12 degrees Celsius outside. If it were below 10, if it were 10 or below, then we would, plus 10 or below, we would be turning on engine anti-ice. You would definitely see some of that possibility around some of the other thunderstorms as some, really cold air is circulating from high in the atmosphere within the thunderstorm with a really hot air that's circulating in the thunderstorm up from the ground. Okay, looking pretty good. We're just coming to the end of the star. I'm going to come up to the autopilot and heading select. Heading select is now on. There's 9,000 feet. And if we bring the map in a click, you can see that we're about 5 miles from our extended center line. Now at this point, VATSIM, ATC, they're basically going to be saying, turn right, whatever. Turn left, descend now. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a descent. Let's descend and maintain. How about 5,000 feet? 5,000 feet. And we'll go over there. Generally, I've been enjoying using the vertical speed descents. That way I can kind of keep a little bit more control of how fast I'm descending. And let's also do a little bit of a turn here to intercept that extended center line. Ooh, and a nice view of the north side of Washington, D.C. View outside the windows is always nice. Now, if we'd like, we could do a direct to, So we can go legs, direct to cuts, and come up here and go back to LNAV, and the airplane will take care of that for us. If ATC isn't telling you to do these things and you want to do a little direct to like that, you know what? Any chance that you can get to sort of take the work out of the flight for yourself, especially in a big VATSIM event. Okay, so we're supposed to be above 4,000 feet at cuts. So I'm going to increase my descent to 4,000, and I'm going to reduce my rate of descent to about 800 feet per minute to put us above 4,000 feet at cuts. I'm going to take control of the speed now, and we're at 240 knots. We are 26 miles from Dulles. So we got a pretty good speed. We're going to be about 4,000 feet at cuts. ATC might be telling us now to reduce our speed to 210 knots, so let's go to 210. That's a good number because then we can also start throwing the flaps out a little bit. If you forget your flapper speeds, they're right under the landing gear handle. So flaps 1, 2, and 3 is 250 knots. 210 is flaps 10, so we could actually start throwing, how about flaps 1? That's going to also help us as reduce our speed a little bit. We're coming up on that 10-mile range ring right now, getting even closer. And flaps 2. Again, this is going to help slow us down just a touch more. You can also look out back and check out the flaps out the window, which is always nice. And flaps 5. And we're getting a little close to that 10 miles. Getting a little bit hazy coming into the Washington area. Probably going to start seeing the afternoon thunderstorms starting to pop up a little bit. Is the East Coast. It is starting to warm up. That's one of the things you get there. Along with lots of gnats and mosquitoes. Heading bug is straight up. And there's our little airplane right there. It's coming in on the ILS just fine. Let's go ahead and get this map over here. And I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit closer to our runway. And if we would be getting kicked over to about tower about now and said 180 knots until 5 miles DME, I would also be setting a frequency down in the radio for ground if ground was up. So 180 knots here. Let's bug 180. There's 180. Dulles is a good 15 out now. How about wheels? Always good to have some wheels. I usually do the landing gear a little bit sooner rather than later, just so I can look outside the airplane and enjoy the landing gear. Hey, look at that. I got glide slope and localizer. Speed's coming down, flaps 10. And let's also go ahead and arm the approach. And no shame with arming the approach. And even if they've got you on an RNAV arrival, no shame in dialing in an ILS if it's available and using that to land. One big reason, I'm not looking out the window of a real airplane. That's a computer screen. It's very flat. Yes, there's a little bit of depth, but not a lot of depth. So the thing is with that, you're going to go and you lose the depth perception, especially for your descent, but you've got a descent indicator right here, and it's really nice to have that. last click of the map there, coming up on our 10-mile range ring, and we're 180 miles out. Over here we go. Back over here to performance. VREF +5 is 147 knots. I'm going to go and put that 7 in there just as a reminder, and put that in there. Now's a good chance to sit back in your chair. You know, if you scrunch around like I do and all that, it's just a little bit better chance. You know, make sure you can get to the rudder pedals and the flaps and the throttles in your side stick. Coming up on 10 miles DME. 5 miles, I mean. And this is looking really good. It's been actually quite a few years since I've been a passenger coming into Dulles, but the way I remember it, that's what it looks like. So the scenery in the Microsoft Flight Simulator world just keeps getting better and better and better. Really does. Fuel is at 7.4. It says we were going to have 7.0 to land. We're in really good shape if we had to go around. Got plenty of fuel to go around. Got fuel to hold. There's 5 miles DME, so 147 on the speed. 147. And because I'm going to get busy, I'm going to just go ahead and crank the flaps down to flaps 30. Watch the airplane slow down. Now, the reason is now's a busy time. This is when, you know, contact tower 5 miles out. And if there's a ground control frequency, as soon as I contact the tower, I'm going to try and dial in the ground control frequency because, again, we get really busy about now. There were these huge quarries, you know, shale and rock quarries coming in. I never really saw them in the sim, but I saw them all the time as a passenger. Okay, everything is nice and stable. Frequencies are set.
1,000.
Landing gear, autopilot disengage bar. Captain's got the airplane. Gear down 3 green. Speed brakes are armed. Auto brakes are set. Speed brakes are not armed. Totally forgot that. And usually about this time, as I'm turning off the autopilot, I'll say those things out loud. Okay, gear down 3 green. Auto brakes, speed brakes. If I've got those, then I'm happy. I will go and do the taxi light. I turn that on as soon as the tower says we're cleared to land. That's just how I know that clear to land. That's when my taxi light goes on. That way, in case there's confusion, I can look up there and see, yep, you told me I was clear to land. Auto throttle is still driving the plane.
300. Approaching minimum. 200.
Auto throttle's off.
Minimum.
Landing.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
Going for butter, as only a sim pilot would do. But we got a long runway here. And reversers are green. Oh. That always happens. If I go outside to look around. And speed brakes down, flaps up. Slow it down just a touch more. If there's a bunch of traffic behind you, get off the runway fast, but we have time. Landing lights off, continuous restart off. APU pops on. Strobes go off. And there is the United area. There's the Bravo, and then there is the Art Deco concourse. We decided we're going to go to Delta 9. Not a bad arrival. Yes, like most sim pilots, I'm going to go and, you know, kind of go for a nice landing rate. It's just one of the things sim pilots do. But what the real pilots care about first is, did they put the wheels firmly down at the end of the runway? That's the most important part for them. Okay, one of the things that you can do is, at this point, once you get a gate number, you can turn on GSX and you can get some guidance going into your gate. So we decided it's going to be gate Delta 19. Delta 19, and just go there. And we're going to fly United. And Delta 19, I believe, is right up here. I hope. Otherwise, I'm going to be really embarrassed. Sometimes it's hard to see. Okay, that was Delta 29. Of course, we do have a chart. We could have looked at the chart. So, 1, 2, about 3 of them down. And maybe the co-pilot can see. Delta 21. That's got to be it right there, right? Yeah, that's it right there. You can see we got ground crew. There's ground crew. That's the best way to be able to find your gate, is to be able to say, yep, that's us over there. So that looks really good. And a nice turn in here. Taxi light goes off because we don't want to blind the ground crew. And we've actually had real ground crew come into chat and say, yes, those taxi lights really are bright. And we got a good marshaller coming in. There we go. Parking brakes on. Parking brakes are on. APU, I usually flip the APU over first, and then we'll go and get our thirsty little jet engines off. As we're coming down here, go to transponder to standby. I'm going to leave one fuel pump on for the APU. We're done with the electric hydraulic pumps. We're going to get the APU bleed and cross bleed on. That's going to be a good thing to do. We'll come on up here and flip off the navigation. Navigation stuff goes off, and with that, seatbelts can go off. Coming down here to the iPad, we can do, first of all, let's go to doors and disarm our doors. And we'll do cargo, open those two. Go to ground services. We'd like some chocks. There's chocks. We need a ground power cart. We need a jetway. The jetway will open the front door for us. So it should open the front door. Let's see if it does it. Hey, look at that. It opened the door. And it usually, I've noticed that it opens the door in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The real jetway, they're gonna wait till the jetway's in place before they open the door, in most cases. But in this case, it always seems to open it a little bit sooner. And that's it. We made it. Nobody was hurt. And the landing rate was probably relatively decent too, and we made it to Dulles. But this really has become a favorite airplane. And I hope that this was a little helpful for you. It's a great airplane. There is a lot to learn about it. I think that the fix to make sure that you have all the waypoints for landing works. So do the star first, then the ILS or RNAV, and that should get all the waypoints for you coming into your arrival airport. And everything else works really, really good. I probably just, scratched the surface on this airplane. There's a lot more to learn, and so I'll be diving into the online manuals to see what else we can pick up. I really appreciate you flying along with me. Thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for liking and subscribing and all that. I hope you could join us for the Spy Flight live streams. 1800 Zulu, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's a good time with good people. And there's also some people that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am that come in. So we always learn a few new things too. Only real problem with it is the really bad jokes, and there's just nothing I can do about that. Thank you for being here. I hope you are doing well. And this is the point in time where I say, please stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.